Passing gas can be deadly.
Whoa. Oh, something's funky.
Passing gas releases a plume of toxic vapors.
Oh, honey, not in the car.
Like ammonia and hydrogen cyanide. And lethal poisons that can linger even when windows are open. Kids shouldn't be exposed to secondhand smoke. Don't pass gas, take it outside.
I'm Sonya.
I'm Ebong.
And I'm Kate.
And today we're dishing with you from Teatro Goldoni, located at 1909 K Street Northwest. And we are some of the first to enjoy the chef's table, the new Teatro chef table. So I'm excited.
The chef's table at Teatro Goldoni. It is fantastic. We're right next to the kitchen and it smells yummy.
And at this time of year, it's good to be close to something warm.
That's very true. And we are sitting with a local author extraordinaire that I enjoy reading, Cathy Alter. Cathy has written Up for Renewal, and it's very important that we talk with you now in the new year because maybe we should be up for renewal in our own lives. If you haven't read the book, you don't know what that means. But Cathy, can you tell us why did you call it Up for Renewal, and what was the whole thing about?
Well, basically, I needed to renew my life.
Don't we all?
It was really in the tank. I had just gotten divorced. I was dating the most inappropriate men, like running around with the worst crowd ever, eating my lunch out of the vending machine, spending my money like crazy. And it took a really good friend of mine to call me up and say, you need to get it together. And, you know, our friendship's at an all-time low. And I thought, if she abandons me, what am I going to do? She was the only constant in my life. So I sat down, I made a list, which is what you normally do around New Year's, and I thought, you know what, my list sounds exactly like the cover lines of every women's magazine on the planet. I'm just going to turn my life over to women's magazines, and for a whole year follow every bit of advice without question.
That sounds so scary to me.
It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. Okay, first of all, how did you choose the magazines?
I chose the magazines that I grew up reading. So from
17?
Cosmo. Well,
you didn't go that far low. Okay.
Tiger Beat.
Tiger Beat. I was like, really?
I decided to choose magazines that had a big subscription following because I wanted women to really relate to this idea. I mean, I thought, who hasn't picked up a magazine, ripped out something, and said, I'm going to try this?
Totally.
And I just did. I tried everything. So I chose the magazines that I knew other women were reading, like Glamour, Oprah, Real Simple. I got 14.
Vogue.
I didn't get Vogue because they weren't bossy. I needed the bossy
The
magazines.
bossy. Interesting.
I needed the how-to.
You mean like the magazines when you go to a supermarket that say, you know, top 5
How to
ways
get a
to keep a
man in 10
guy,
days.
stuff like that. Yeah,
How to find his 5 secret trigger pleasure spots. I mean, everything like that.
So is this book fiction or nonfiction?
It's nonfiction. It's a memoir. It's my story.
Your story.
Yep.
Wow.
Everything. The good, the bad.
So hence
really
the
ugly.
title Up for Renewal, as in renewal of subscription, but also renewal of your life.
Yep, exactly.
And
I wanted to play on words.
You've written for McSweeney, so it's not like this is going to be a serious tome of your life. I'm guessing a lot of humor in here.
I mean, it was painful for me to write it because I was in such a bad place. You know, I can't even tell you the mistakes I was making. It was embarrassing. I felt like I was back in college.
But you are not going to tell us the mistakes, but you have it here in the book?
Page 2. It all starts on page 2. I get right down to it.
The list.
I just, you know, I lost that filter. I lost that sense about me that was like, this isn't good. Yeah. I should not do this. I just was doing everything that was bad for me. And I knew it. That was a scary thing. I knew it was bad.
Well, I feel like most of these magazines are usually trying to give you sex advice. So were you mostly looking for that, or were you looking for help with, you know, how to decorate your home?
Yeah. Every chapter I dedicated to a different damage zone. So there is
different damage zone.
It's true.
I like
And
that.
the first one was just how to wrap a sandwich in saran wrap. That was my very first challenge.
You didn't know how to do that?
No, saran wrap is so hard to use.
It is.
Wait,
It is.
come
Because
on.
it
I
clings.
like
just do the-
aluminum
No, I'm with you. I like
me too.
aluminum
It
foil
sticks to your
too.
elbow.
Thank you,
It's
thank you,
always
thank
going,
you.
it's like running amok.
Exactly.
So I thought Real Simple had this tutorial on how to wrap a sandwich, and I thought if I could just stop eating lunch out of the vending machine and eat a real lunch, I would feel better. I would get protein.
Yeah.
You know, I would start to look healthy. So I did, and it got me out of the office where I had been dating this horrendous coworker of mine.
Never a good idea.
No,
they
I
always
know,
say
and
that
I
in the
knew that.
magazines.
That's
They
it.
always
Like,
say that.
I knew all of that, and I couldn't help it.
So how
It
did
was
you make the
crazy.
transition, though? How did you make the transition from, you made the list down, which I think was amazing, because a lot of people don't do that. It's
Number one thing I
self-awareness.
did, yep.
You started with the list, and how did you make the transition from the list to how we end up with
Action.
Up for Renewal?
I went to the bookstore. I went to Barnes & Noble right in Georgetown, and I stood in front of that wall of women's magazines, and I just scooped up a whole bunch. In fact, when I brought it to the counter, the lady asked me if I was opening a nail salon, because I had so many women's magazines. And then I went home, I decided what my first challenge was going to be, and I read the magazines like I was reading Playboy or something, you know, until I could find something that spoke to that challenge, whether it was sandwich wrapping, how to improve the relationship with my mother, how to
are they on
decorate.
timelines? Because they always say you can do this in 5 days, you can do this in 30 days.
Yeah,
do
3 months.
magazines give
Better buns in 3
appropriate
months.
timelines for what they say you can do? And did you find that to be true?
I found that when I took that active role in changing my life, anything would have worked. From reading the back of a soup can, you know, so the timeline worked for me. At the end of the year, I truly was different. And, you know, I think the vehicle was women's magazines, but again, I could have done a lot of things. I mean, Elizabeth Gilbert, you know, traveled. I wish I had more money. I would have done that.
Yeah.
My whole year cost $144. That's how much it costs to subscribe to the magazine.
And the saran wrap.
Right, yeah, which I did wind up using. Cosmo had a good article on sex
I
and
remember
saran
that
wrap.
part.
Yeah,
I do remember
it
that
came in
part.
pretty handy.
Is it in the book?
Yeah,
I think it is. I think it is.
This is the perfect way for me to spend my holiday break. I think that's
I don't
your
wanna,
book. I'm going to be.
I don't want to. Oh, you mean about the book?
Not the
Okay,
saran
okay.
wrap. I'm
Hey.
sorry, I'm not ready for that. I need to do one of the
the
like the
saran
sit-up
wrap
things
is for
first.
the men, though.
So after a year, I don't want to give away the end of the book, but after a year, did you feel like you should renew again? Is this something that you think people should do on a yearly basis to continue to improve their lives? Or is it something that kind of is a little bit nuts when you start to think about it?
It was a little bit nuts, you know, but I needed a change. And I think once you decide you need to change your life, unless you make that active vow to do it and to get moving, whatever that is, it's always a good time to take stock, you know, at the end of a year, beginning of a new year. And, you know, I just decided women's magazines because they lasted a year. And that's how much time I wanted to give myself. And I thought, this is easy, I could do this. It was like a really familiar genre. I'd grown up reading them. I just never did them before. And I thought, this is interesting and kind of provocative. And all my friends thought I was insane, which is always a sign of like a good idea.
Totally.
It's really what you've done right now is you've reinforced the fact that any change it requires an action on your part versus
Right.
just you know the actual list, because a lot of people go to have self-help books up the yin yang, but until you actually make an active role to make a change, it doesn't matter. Like you said, it didn't matter what it could have been. It could have been saran wrap. It could have been how to shovel dog poop. It doesn't matter. But you were able to, and that's actually I think is really refreshing.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Don't just pick it up because you think it's going to help you in your life. Pick it up because it's a hilarious read by a
sure.
local author, and we love it. We love you. Thanks so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on. And if you want to know what magazines taught her and us about love, sex, and starting over, you can get your own signed copy. Tell us what you think of this episode as our friend on Facebook.
Or tell us what you do with saran wrap.
Look at that. I kind of like that one.
Address it to me.
Thanks for watching this episode of The District Dish.